How's it going? We're just waiting for somebody to get here. While we're waiting, though, we can have a guest up and talk about certain things if you like the topic. I hope everybody had a good day today.
How are you?
Good. How's it going, Duran?
Good. I'm just gonna be sitting here today and listening.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Belmont to get logged in. So if you want to stay up for a minute, we can kind of roll this off.
Yeah, I'll be here.
So how'd
Just
your
don't. I'm
lives?
gonna mute myself.
Yeah. Okay. How did your lives go today?
Good, good. You're echoing.
Am I echoing? Hold on.
Can you hear me? 1, 2, 1, 2.
I can hear you.
I can hear myself twice.
Mm,
1, 2, 3. Yeah, I can still hear myself.
Still echoing. I can hear it pretty good here. I don't know if it's an issue with you on your end. Is everybody else hearing an echo in the chat?
I don't see nobody yet. Let me invite people.
No, it says no echo. Erica said that there's not an echo. It might be
Okay,
on your
maybe.
end, Duran.
Okay, let me restart. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem. Belmont should be on shortly. Just waiting for him to get logged in. He might be running late a little bit. Life gets busy, as we all know. While we're waiting, though, is there anything that anybody wants to bring up or have specific questions? I know the topic is going to be Anunnaki, so if there's anything that you guys want to ask specifically, we can start off with that, and anything that might be in your mind that you might want to share. Here, I see Belmont coming through now.
Okay, I sent invites. I'm gonna send more invites. Everybody invite everybody. Tap, 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 tap. Make sure tap.
Buddy. How we doing, brother?
How are we doing there, Belmont?
Doing fantastic. You should have seen the live this morning. They kind of went in circles, and I quote. So they tried to get me to expose or show proof of God. And if you remember how the Anunnaki are aliens, but also considered gods on a scientific approach, they already proved that aliens were real with the government coming forward like, oh yeah, all that shit was real, guys. And so I bring that up, and they're like, "Well, that's not proof enough." I'm like, "Bro, that is proof. That's your proof right there."
Right.
Also, honey, there's plenty of deviled eggs if you want them.
Oh fuck yeah! She
I
made
want
food
some.
yesterday, and it was, oh man, she made deviled eggs. She made these croissant cookies and this lavender lemon cupcakes. Oh, dude, fucking to die for.
It sounds like it.
She's fattening me up, and I love it.
My wife does the same thing, buddy. Don't feel bad. I think that's their one of their job. Well, I shouldn't say job. I think that's their desire. I should say.
That's their fun. Like that's what they do for fun. I'm like, what can I do to tempt him today?
How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great, Darren. How you doing today?
Good. I'm just gonna be here watching you guys.
Honestly, I love your input too. There might be someone that might be joining us today as well. Her name now, Akaya. She was with me this morning on the live, so you might hear her rant about this. So I'm just letting you know right now. Oh man, I'm talking. I'm not joking. Like these people, like we were almost making the exact same argument, but when it came to when it really came down to it, ooh no, this ham no good. I'm gonna cook it from scratch, man. I got invited for that live. I thought just the one that I was originally planning for today.
I thought it was at 7.
He invited me early. That's why I was like, I'm gonna get this taken care of. I got dishes to do and everything else.
Why did
One
you
second.
just say there's no opening anyways?
Tell her this is the big one. Tell her that she's gonna want to listen to this one. It's all good. You know, our other halves love to join or love to spend time with us, and I think sometimes they view it as us spending time with other people, which is understandable. The one thing that we always need to keep in mind is our priorities, and our priorities always are with our families. So, all respects to Belmont and his, like I said, our priorities are always first. So, how's it going, 545? It definitely will be. We'll be going over a recap of what we went over last week, a small recap, and then exploring new things that he hasn't talked about yet. We're kind of going over the whole story of what he knows. He's very knowledgeable in the whole Anunnaki story and origins. So it's quite a treat to have Bellman on here and having him speak with us and sharing his knowledge, because let me tell you one thing: knowledge isn't an easy thing to obtain. It takes time and it takes effort. And a lot of people we're very spared on our time, and the effort that we like to express out sometimes can be very minimal and directed in other places. So count it as a treat to have him here and speak about the things that he knows about. And also, while you're listening to this, take notes so you can look at this stuff on your own time, because that's one thing that you're going to want to do is never take anything for face value, but always do your own research. I think we all know at this point that sparingly taking things at face value needs to be put in a certain category, and that's in the need to look at deeper category. So and don't be afraid to ask questions. That's why we're all here, is to gain something from this, whether it be knowledge and have our own questions answered. So
Sorry about that. Making ham and scalloped potatoes and some other things for our Salvation Army Symphony. So you guys are going to be with me when that happens. Now,
Yeah,
topics.
no problem, buddy. I was just telling them how priorities come first. So we all have our priorities at home, which lie with our families and our significant others. So that's always number one, you know.
And that's something I am trying to get everything else done with. Because the one from this morning I kind of woke her up with, and not the best. Not the best.
Right.
This one, she knew about this one, and she knew that I was looking forward to this one. Someone else invited me to that one. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and come on to this, see how this is, see how that goes. Oh, what's her name? Deborah, or whatever it is. You'll know how she is by the way she does everything. The way she goes about it has to do with trying to find physical proof for whatever you guys go for. So say like you were talking about religion. She'll want to find physical proof, not scientific theory, but scientific proof that these things do exist. So if she does come on, giving you guys fair warning, she is open-minded and she wants to be heard, but it more than likely it's going to kill the mood, or we're going to have one hell of a debate on our hands. Because we can try and show her all the proof that we have, but it's going to be one of those ones, you know?
Yeah, and, you know, for everybody that's here, I think we know that certain things are hidden from the mainstream, or the mainstream knowledge that's presented to us. It's something that you have to look into, and with discernment as well. So it's nothing that's right there out in the open. For some reason, they don't want you to think that there's a creator. Whether it be source, some people call it source, some people call him God. But I think that's besides the point. Like I said, it takes a lot of looking into things. But before I start rambling on, let's kind of go ahead and get this thing rolling. If Belmont, if you want to kind of go on a little recap of what we went over last week, and then I don't know how much time you got. I planned on being on here for 2 hours, so like we did last week.
If I recall from last week, we were going over the origins, the Nagas, and a few of the connections between China's origins with Egypt and various other topics. Which one would you like to start with first?
Do you remember what we started with last week? Because it was very. We started with the beginning of the story. So, and I think
you're talking about in the beginning. So yes. The Anunnaki and whole biblical narrative.
And then we went into Apollo, and we showed. We went on Google Earth and kind of showed that part of it, which we can do again. But if you want to give a little bit of recap of what we went over last week, and then we can expand onto that.
I gotcha. Last week, we went over the origins of mankind using not only the presence of the Bible, but also for other cultures and origins that it was connected to, such as Greek and Egyptian, and also various other backgrounds in Akkadian, Babylonian, Sumerian, and also Lakota indigenous tribe. Now, the point for the research in the background for this knowledge is not to take away from any one culture or any one religious practice, but rather show the connections that keep us all separated. Now,
and one thing I want to make a point to, because I think a lot of people it's not too clear especially when we talk about these things, that you and I both believe in a creator. We both believe. We both started with the Bible, and I still am expanding on that. I read it every day. There's other texts that I read every day, and this is kind of going into the deeper, the story, the behind-the-scenes stories, the ones that we haven't seen, the ones that we haven't read. Now, you can read these texts. They have these texts, They're in many different books. For example, Epic of Gilgamesh. There's the Apocrypha. There is, um, if you want to name a few, there's plenty of them out there that you can
I would
obtain.
recommend, yes. I would recommend people to start back with the Eridu Genesis / Instructions of Surapak. The Instructions of Surapak / Eridu Genesis goes over the very first oral to written down translation of the very first deluge story going back to Sumerian tradition. The person in the book that you'll find, which is known as Siasudra, will also be later down known as Atrahasis with the work that bears his name in the 17th century BCE. In the Akkadian, at the time, Akkadian Babylonian, until the Babylonians were taken over by the Amorites, and then it became Akkadian Assyrian, and the Babylonians stuck with and kind of modified the Enuma Elish, which after that it becomes two different genres, which the Book of the Heavenly Cow, along with the Epic of Gilgamesh that you were talking about, Gilgamesh, the Netherworld, along with Enkidu. So it's Gilgamesh, Enkidu, and the Netherworld. And let's see if I can recall. Let me grab my books. 1 second. All right. So going back, say, I know I got you. Take, say, Genesis for all the, I would say, Christian or monotheistic people. That's right here. The Enuma Elish is where the ancient Hebrews that we know as today created the book of Genesis. Now, the young earth theory that goes along with this was debunked by the officials that later down the road found the Mesopotamian, Sumerian deluge story. They went out and tried to completely debunk the flood all on its own accord. This is also where the Lakota come in, and also scientific research comes in, due to the fact that they have not one but two different resets that are in their creation stories alone that tie them to the ancient Sumerian race. Now, a lot of people may find this hard to believe, considering the fact that they are in two different time periods, if you would, or they're two different distinct cultures. But it's really not. This is where you'll have to, as your own individual, distinguish and decipher the connections that are between these two different cultures and religions. You, as the individual, have to put your own ideologies aside to see the truth that's beyond what you know. Now, if that makes any sense. Whew, that hand's looking good. Now, when it comes to the stories that come from the Bible, and also, say, like giants and all these other creatures that were once made, take Anubis, Egyptian god. However, he's a dog-headed man. I want people to remember that Saint Christopher of the Russian Orthodox Church, known to be the burden bearer, he who puts the world on his shoulders, and crossed Christ against the river, was also a dog-headed man. The Seophilics were an ancient race that were known to be found in Asia and in Africa. However, this also correlates with the Nagas and Naganinis that I was talking about in the earlier lives as well. These half human, half snake, reptilian, if you would, but also you would say semi-divine people. It is very difficult for people nowadays to distinguish what is human and what is supernatural, because just like back in those days now, it's becoming too mixed. Take how it was during the times of Noah. He was known to be the only man left purely human. Now, Siasudra, the priest king that he's known as in Sumerian, is said to be still alive to this day. If you remember what we were going over last time as well with the Smoky God or Voyage to the Inner World that talk about Hollow Earth theory, Truth Repeater?
Yeah, I remember what you're talking about.
Okay, so in the Sumerian, and also going back to one of our very first lives that we also did, going back with Daliganuna and Enki, also known as Ea, is in the land of Delamun, where they made us. Yep, she's also known as Ninhursag or Ninhursaga. Here we are. That's Anu. That's here. That should be. There it is. Going with, say, the London Hammer. The London Hammer being one of the only ones that we found here in Texas in the United States that shows a codified hammer that takes a process of millions of years to even do for one. However, the story opens with the younger gods weary from all their endless toil. They are forced to dig canals and harvest fields and engage in all kinds of menial labor, which prevents them from greater works or any kind of leisure. They cry out to Enki to do something to help them, but Enki, represented as the supreme god, mind you, it's the same thing that they find in Lakota. He is Ea, the supreme god, is resting after the effort of creation and will not wake. Enki's mother, Namu, hears their cries and carries their tears to Enki, waking him. Enki is annoyed and is with the request, but consents to his mother's wishes that he creates beings who will ease the gods' burdens. He asks her to work with Ninma. This is Dalgonuna, also known as Nintur, etc. She has various names, with other fertility goddesses to create human beings and give them life. Now, this is where it comes in with Genesis, that man was made to ease the burden of the gods, and that we were there to help keep the forces of chaos at bay. This on itself is actually the basis, not just the biblical portion, but also the portion of almost every single culture out there, that we humans were given divine life from the gods, and we are expected to not only work alongside them, but give them gratitude and be grateful for the life that they bestowed upon us. And what I have found with that is we do this. But take the On Enlil decision when they decide to flood the earth. They don't regret it until after they decide to flood the entire fucking earth. And even then, they still get pissed off at Enki for saving a human. But it wasn't but if they didn't,
Honey,
yeah?
real quick, can you come here?
One sec. I just got the ham done.
Now, something that I always notice when he's going over these stories is a similarity to the stories that we've already read, or a lot of us have, at least. And that's something that you'll probably catch as well as you're listening.
I got internet issues here. That's why I'm not. But I'm listening. So
Sounds good. And if anybody has any questions in the chat, feel free to put them in whenever you'd like, and we'll address them as we go along.
And I'm back. I do apologize. I had to head off for a minute, and she wanted to show me something that was in there, and it's actually quite interesting. But I never knew about that with the Hunger Games. But now you were saying something as I walked off. What was it?
No, we were just saying that what the audience is going to notice is that a lot of these stories that you go over, if they've read the Bible, they're going to realize that they're similar, and
Very.
a lot of them are the same story that you've read, but with different names as the characters.
Exactly. Take for them if they want to. I'll put the link in here. They could also go onto it. It's called worldhistory.org. These people have to have everything that they have, which is translated from the 17th to 19th centuries AD to now. These have people who have spent their lives going over this and deciphering, translating, and putting this into a time period where they can find it. So for people to go on about it and say like, oh, there's no scientific evidence for it. Well, in the 17th to 19th centuries, now mind you, I'm telling you this because I still believe in the Bible. The Bible is a continuation. It still has original stories and original things that did happen in it. However, it is a continuation. In the 17th to 19th centuries, it was the academic, religious, and there was the European museums as well as the academic and religious institutions that sponsored and funded excavations to Mesopotamia to find historical collaboration for the stories in the Bible. What they found, however, was quite the opposite, in that once cuneiform tablets were translated, it was found that a number of biblical books were originally written down in Sumer, modified and translated by the Akkadians, reworked by the Babylonians, but then later down the road would be the inspiration for the Hebrew scribes for the book known as the Book of Genesis. Though while the origins of the Enuma Elish, the Atrahasis, and the Eridu Genesis closely align, it is still highly or vastly different due to the basic paradigm. Though while in the beginning there was nothing and there was darkness, it changes from Apsu and Tiamat being the very first and beginning and mixing their waters, the fresh water above and the watery, salty water below, which is Tiamat, and Apsu being the fresh water above. Now, if you also remember, it says that there are the waters above and the waters below. This is still true, but it's through a different lens, a different perspective, a different way of thinking. This on itself talks about, as well, from Greek mythology backwards. It talks about the Titanomachy / primordial wars that you would like to talk about. It talks about the giant Titan war, the giant God war, and various other wars that they've already had, because just like in the Bible as well, there was war in the heavens, and there was the giant serpent that goes with. I wish to show people the truth, because just like in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16 and 17, it says, and I quote, all scripture is breathed out by God and is profitable for teaching, and it's profitable for teaching and is valuable for hold on, let me grab it. I know I got it here soon. Anyway, it's for review, for record, for correction, and so that the man of God may complete in all works. Actually, wait, I got it in my research. I'm a dumbass. I'm so glad I wrote this shit down. There it is. All scripture is breathed out by God and is profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and training in high righteousness, and that the man of God may be complete, equipped for every good work. This on itself is not to take away from the Bible, but rather show people the truth. Gilgamesh, who, mind you, was a king of Uruk, a historical king at that, if I might add, was also known to be a giant. But if you're taking away from the book of the prophecy, which is Revelation chapter 22, verse 18 through 20, or to add to the book of the prophecy, which I'm not doing, I'm just correcting it, then we are already in violation of not only the Bible after 1604, because even the Ethiopian and Greek Orthodox Bibles have the whole Testament, including the Apocrypha, Book of Enoch, Book of Jubilees, Maccabees, etc., etc. We, as Christians, seem to be the only people, besides Pentecostal and various ones that take out the actual Bible, seem to be in violation and have no guidance. They have no real guidance anymore. And they're so ignorant of the subject that they're not willing to look past, that they've already contradicted themselves by taking stuff out and not wanting to listen to the truth. That's what I find the most peculiar. Oh, let's see, where'd she put scalloped potatoes?
And it's a common thing when you're looking at these things to have a almost like a taboo mindset, because that's been ingrained in our head to think like that, and to not actually look into things that are presented to us at first.
That is true. Best way to explain that is like this morning.
Now,
Go
Mark,
for
let
it.
me ask you this. Okay, so tell us more about the Igigi then.
The Igigi. Now, I'm going to, again, reference back to the London Hammer. It takes millions of years to codify, and yet just like in the Atrahasis, the Igigi were the second to be made, or if you would, the first to be made. When the gods descended, or the aliens, Anunnaki, descended onto this earth, they were originally the workers of this area. But they wanted leisure, which again, we'll find this in the Sumerian tablets, that the Anunnaki wanted a life of grand leisure, and they wanted to relax and make everyone else do all the work. And so when they made the Igigi, they weren't prepared for these animal hybrids, you would also say. The ones that were still around would be the Dogmen, would be the Zillock, or they came a little bit later because it was Mother Huber who formed everything that gave birth to them. So they would probably become later. However, with these animal-like gods, they fought their way for immortality. They were originally the original workers for these gods, but they were made from the animals of the earth. Everything that was in front of them was made. So they had to not only put their own blood into it, just like how they made us, but they had to be wary of them. They were more in tune to the earth, especially this natural earth. Take the scorpion men, for example. Now, what do scorpions have on a natural state? What can they do with the sand for, say, like prey when they're hunting?
They bury themselves, correct?
Some of them, yes. But think like bats. It's similar to echolocation, but they're using the ground instead.
Like vibrations.
Correct. In ancient ways, in ancient myths, one second. Hey,
It's like the second version of Dune, man. I'm telling you, they're rubbing it on us, but I'm listening. So
yes, and the scorpion men, which is also found in the Epic of Gilgamesh, they're known as the Draconians. But they're also known to be the world's renowned archers all throughout the world, especially in Persian mythology, which, if you go into history, you'll find is actually the accumulation between the Ethiopians and the Greeks. All Persian kings to this day, including the very first, is descended from Perseus, son of Perseus and Princess Andromeda of Ethiopia. And anyone who wants to go with that is then going against their own origin and cultural heritage, because it's like, you motherfucker, you're telling me that I'm Greek and Ethiopian? Yes, I am. But you're Persian. There's the difference. You have to take both to understand one. Man, it's like the whole fucking, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Well, at this point, both. Because in order for one to come, one has to come before. But if it's a cycle and repetition, what's next? Okay. One good Gigi that a lot of people... How many of you guys are Dragon Ball Z fans?
I'm familiar. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a fan, but
All right, so you know Goku.
yeah, I had the cards. I still have some of the cards.
All right, now I want you to think of this, all right? Son Goku, also Kakarot, is a giant ape inside the series, correct? Like, he turns in the original series, Dragon Ball, and his son later, Gohan, has the power to turn into a great ape. Now, Son Wukong, or Son Goku, which is in Japanese, after they took themselves away from the Chinese culture and called themselves the Japanese after the split, took most of Chinese, Hindu, Buddhist, Taoist, and Tibetan practices with them and became their own practice on itself. Now, Sun Wukong, which is the monkey god, is also an Igigi. Made by Mother Huber, which ironically, if you go in Buddhist, Taoist, etc., you'll find the very same person whose Mother Huber is also the same person whose Mother Kardu, who made all the Nagas and Naganinis, which are the semi-divine half-snake, half-human snake beings who are able to be holistic human, holistic serpent, or both, and half, which is Lamias. Again, in Greek mythology, these are the Gorgons. Now, Sun Wukong is the god, but originally the king of the monkey men. But he stole immortality from the gods, not once, not twice, but about an accumulation of about 10 times. One of which he actually erased his own name from the Book of the Dead after waking up and having to find out that he was being brought to the afterlife. He's like, fuck this. I escaped from these people. I'm just going to erase my name. And that just gained me immortality. So apparently if you erase your name from the Book of the Dead, you're good. You're immortal now, because once your name comes around, they're like, wait a minute. Who the fuck are you? Well, my name's not on there? Nope. So am I not supposed to be dead? No. So what are they supposed to do with you? Now, you can also find Sun Wukong in Egyptian mythology. He is the baboon god. He is the baboon monkey god. You'll also find references of him in the Honduras region in Central America with La Ciudad Blanca, or White City of the Monkey God. Now again, how does the western side of the world have eastern gods? But I want people to remember when these gods became gods, this was still Pangea. This was Maka for the Lakota. This was Earth, the 1/2 landmass, which we know with science is millions of years old, before the Great Continental Divide, which even the Lakota have on their own creation to this day. They talk about how Maka, Earth, shook with earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tornadoes, hurricanes, hundreds of them, all happening at the same time. In the 1/2 landmass, Maka broke apart and became the separate nations that we know today. But again, just like how they talk about with the other resets, we didn't learn our lesson. We became arrogant. We took more than what we could give back. We became disruptive, loud, abusive. And so this time it came in the form of the Ice Age. Now we put the entire Ice Age in one go, even though that there are multiple instances of other Ice Ages. It started 2.6 million years ago, and the current most up-to-date with our mythology and history ends about 11,000 BCE, which would take us to Medusa and Perseus, which is around the late 14th to early 13th century BCE. And with Plato, who was born 429, 427 BCE, who described Atlantis roughly 9,000 years before his time. This is how I'm giving people scientific evidence as well as historical, mythical, and religious backgrounds. It's not about saying like, oh, I'm just going to take and just go in. I've done a lot of work. And like what she said this morning was, you have a lot of time on your hands. No, I just go over it and over it and over it until it's just like, okay, there ain't no fucking way I'm wrong. Because I've looked on maps, I've looked at science, I've looked everywhere else. And just as how science says that it's not a factual way of proving how the world works, you must prove from other sources of evidence and be challenged by multiple people, which has already been done with most of my research. It's already been translated, it's been worked over, it's been transcribed, it's been dated, it's been looked by many sources. And all I'm doing is adding to that research and saying, okay, I found even more on what you've already said. Here's the rest of it. Here you go, hon. Let me give you a knife and a fork. There you go. Here.
For dinner.
One second.
I'm kidding, man. I'm messing with you. We
Gotta
have
make
5
supper.
people, man. Come on, everybody hit share. What's up? I shared a lot. Nobody's coming, but let's go. Share. We have good information here.
Please share and tap the screen. Would be great. Thank you.
All right. Now, take giants. These are as well part of the Igigi, but they're also not. The ones that you see in the Bible, or say Greek mythology and various other myths, there's 2 distinct different giants. One of which is the giants you'll see in the Bible, which are the Nephilim after humans were created. And then you'll see the giants that were even before then, that were the world of renown, men of renown, etc. These were the sons of gods. These were the people who were born correctly, that were, in a way, done right. However, as well, it is the original people, the original offspring of humans. Yeah, you're right. I did forget to peel it. You're right there. I'm sorry. My single track mind was like, orange, get her the orange. I forgot to peel it. I'll be right back, honey. The giants of old, I'm going to use his name that is used in the Epic of Gilgamesh, known as Nuntapishtim. Now, Nuntapishtim is the relative as well as ancestor of Gilgamesh. If you remember, originally I thought that Siasudra was the brother of Gilgamesh, when in reality it turns out that he's the relative and Gilgamesh is a descendant of Siasudra. So when the Epic of Gilgamesh happened, the flood had already done and been over with. So this is where it becomes a little confusing now, because Surapuk was originally given to Siasudra. So this also goes with the old theories that say, like, take the Egyptians following the new kingdom or the new empire that followed the Sumerian kings list. The old theory that held that maybe the Egyptians inherited the structures and the megalithic structures that we had today, and that instead of making them, they were just there already. That
the Egyptians that we read about in our history.
Go for it.
I was just saying, correct?
Yes, and that's exactly it. And this is why you will find pyramids all over the world, all throughout the different areas, because they were created before the world's reset. Now, this also takes in consideration why you'll find stuff in America, you'll find stuff in Antarctica, you'll find things all over the place, because that's exactly what it was back in that time during the Garden of the Moon / the great 1/2 landmass that was made for us. Everything was connected. However, due to the fact of that, it also gave off a different wavelength, a different vibration. Even today, the Great Pyramids and Zergits all still maintain a perfect frequency. And yet we still don't understand how.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable when you actually start looking into these things.
Here you go, honey. Fully freshly peeled. Let me guess, I'm going to get you a paper towel. Yeah. She's looking around. She's like, what? Don't worry. Oh, wait. Here's one that I didn't even use. Here you go. I love her to death. Now, let's see, going with that 1/2 landmass. Okay. You'll find dogmen in North America, Europe, all throughout Africa, all these different areas. You'll find the very same creatures that you'll find in various myths and folklore. Right now, we call them cryptids. We call them various names to adapt and indulge on what could be there. But in reality, you'll find people who are in indigenous tribes who say, that's not a make-up story, that's my culture, that's my heritage, that's this. Why are you talking about that stuff as if it's a joke? And now you got to ask yourself, wait, I thought all this was made up. But if you have people who are core belief, heart, like everything, foundation, this is what they truly believe, how much of that is false? Because take the Appalachian Trail, still around during the Great Continental Divide. still around during the one half landmass. Could you imagine what creatures are still in there that haven't been seen? How many people have been told or tell people that there are things out there that they can, like, you know what? No, I'm not going back out there, bro. Fuck that. I already have one encounter. I ain't having another. Missing the missing 411 cases that are still lined up to all the cave systems. This is, if you're going with the Igigi, this is what I'm trying to prove. There are Igigi out here currently, and you can find them. However, you will have a very difficult time getting them to not only trust you, but not kill you. They don't like humans. They're jealous of us. There are a few of them that are protectors, one of which are the Zillock. Some of them still have contracts with us. Those are the Dogmen. And some of them hunt us for sports. That people get mixed up with between skinwalkers and also, what's the other one I'm looking for? It's Wendigo. They get mixed up quite a lot. The skinwalker, according to older myths, is actually a human. But they have more of a spiritual gift that allows them to shapeshift between human and animal forms. They were once normal humans, but because of, and I hate to say it, but because of the white man, they became feared, superstition. They became something to fear and to blame. So people would start attacking. This is also another reason why they'll see during the time of colonization, wolves were killed out a lot more. Things that were known to be spiritual animals that they could easily turn into, such as deer and wolves, were one of the most popular, but they were just fronts for a bigger cause. Even the church recognizes that shape-shifting is and will always will be something that is a probability, especially with possession. That's why I always tell people, if the church didn't want you to know it, they wouldn't ban it.
Yeah.
I still find it ironic, though. The church has various cultures and religious texts in the Vatican catacombs. However, they won't release it back to those very same cultures and heritage that they took it from. Because why? Does it tell something that will screw up their narrative? Oh, yeah.
It definitely does. And even if you start going back a little bit, you start to notice that. So even if you get like the Apocrypha, you'll notice little things that that definitely go against the modern narrative of the day.
Mm-hmm. It's why I enjoy the Apocrypha, the Book of Enoch, and the Book of Maccabees and Jilibis, because it shows you the side of the world that was there before everything was taken to be. Now, yes, while we, especially the Christians, may see God as this great, all-powerful, very nice God, I still find it baffling that he made his own children, if you would, the angels, the watchers, be chained to rocks and then having to watch their wives and daughters be slaughtered in front of them. They pleaded out to our Creator for forgiveness. And the merciful God that we know completely just looks at him and goes, fuck that. No, you're killing all the humans. But yet, again, this goes with, at that time, humans were cattle. pretty much. We were precious to the gods. And so this would make sense that they had to be punished, because now they're creating something that we're not supposed to be created, because this goes with the Anunnaki. They, Ea and Dalganuna, Damkina, were the creators of mankind. And the people, their sons, took it upon themselves to have wives of man, and then created something that was not intended to be made at that time. And so when it had unintended results, they were given a punishment far worse than anyone ever had to endure and suffer at that time. And so, yes, this is also another reason why some demons do not like our Creator. It's more of like daddy issues.
It really is, though, isn't it? When you when you put it that way.
That's the best way to put it. All the angels and demons have daddy issues, because it's like, well, Dad never lets me do anything. Yeah, that's because you never rebelled. Oh yeah, look what happened to you. Look where you're at. Yeah, I'm living my best life. Even with reincarnation, could you imagine that fucking hassle when you're having to live out and see the other versions of you in your life? Like, see, I didn't make that mistake when I was alive, you fucking dumbass. Dude. It's like, I want people to have fun with it, because all of it is true. Like, okay. One of the other topics we came across was flat Earth. Now, this is a massive rabbit hole, because it says, and I quote, waters above and waters below. It also has, and I quote, the 1/2 landmass. It is the one central plane. The only time that was correct, again, was when Pangea was around, when it was a one central landmass that had just Earth all around it and surrounded by ocean. This, again, will still have Antarctica connecting to the moon map that we still see today. That is still somewhat in truth and perspective. Now, the waters above and waters below originally were the two gods Tiamat and Apsu. This is what they're talking about. The landmass that's also there, if you say go with Norse, or even say the Enuma Elish, it was literally the skin and bones and the smashed skull of Tiamat. But that couldn't have been true in all of its way, considering the fact that the plane of Earth have already been made and the gods were there. Now, this is where the mythical side comes in, where a person can be a place, a thing, and a being at the same time.
Right.
Here we go. We'll take Quingu with the original Enuma Elish and Atrahasis, the god that was sacrificed. Huh?
Can you get me some ice and are you going to eat?
Yeah.
And cheers, food.
I'm about to make it. But take
545 to get into either Duran was telling me about Kraken, and I use Coinbase. That's a good way to start if you just want to do it periodically and put a little bit of money at a time, which is what I do. Duran's been talking to me about doing other ways, but if you're looking to just start off and just get familiar with it, that's a good idea to start there.
Now, this plane of existence that we're on is two-dimensional but three-dimensional at the same time. And the best way to explain that, again, goes with your eyesight. Everything is a left and right, but there's also a third plane that we don't see that's straight in the middle. this is the invisible line that they say cross when your eyes meet. And it's like, oh, that's the doorway to hell. You'll start seeing demons and shit. That's actually quite true. But it's also where your third eye is technically located, but also in the back. Now, when this happens, it's also because you're going with Einstein's theory of relativity with E equals mc squared. What was that, honey? You want me to? I gotcha. E equals mc squared is also vice versa. M equals ec squared, which shows that energy and mass is the same physical entity and can be changed into each other underneath the right circumstances. Now, when light travels / transfers through our eyes, quick notes, going with the crystal skulls. The crystal skulls are made of quartz crystals, and same thing with our old corrective lenses before the 1940s. Going back, our eyes are made of 60% crystalline proteins that once you die, they do actually become clumps of crystals. Now, light, just like how it does with any other quartz crystal or prism, if you would bend light and transfer it now with the anatomy of our own brain and eyes and the process of how it goes. First starts with the PVN, which sends all of that to the lower stomach region, which in chakras, you would see that as our root or base chakra. After which, it makes its climb using the LGN, which sends signals throughout our body. After which, it sends and goes into our pineal gland, which is the 7th chakra, which is also one of the very last final destinations before it takes and makes its complete round between the primary visual cortex, the visual cortex, and the thalamus, which all is, in consideration, handles all of our memories, our information, anything that has happened to us, and is also the reasons why we have any reactions. But during all of this is why we are being told constantly to take a step back and breathe, because you're reacting before you're thinking. And that is true, because it has all of the stuff that has happened to you is being remembered instantly. Everything that has happened to you in your life is an instant reaction. It's why we get triggered, quote unquote, to what is being said. Because we've had instances that has made us feel a certain way, and so they are wounds that are left unhealed. And so we react constantly. And a lot of us don't even know why. Here you go, hon. We warmed up. Ready to go. Now, going back to the whole chakras, this even goes back to Sun Wukong, that even during battle, he did a form of meditation that allowed him to increase his size and mass. This is where, again, goes with Einstein's equation, because he then proved this ourselves, that it could be changed. And meditation shows us that we could take control of our inner energy, which is also known as ki. Now, let me grab my book, because there is a god that is referenced for this, and I believe that is Dalganuna, our mother goddess. This is where yin and yang will come in with divine masculine and divine feminine, the two powers that create us, because it takes two to create one. There will always be darkness with light and light with darkness. Now, just like how it says in the Bible, the gods created us in their image. And just like how it says in the Sumerian old works and Sumerian folklore, we body Enki's design, but it is Nintur, also Dalganuna, that creates our fates. It's all entirely up to her. This is why a lot of people wonder, like, why is it whenever something good happens to me, something bad happens? Well, this is why, because your dad's trying to give you something good, and your mom's over here like, fuck that. You're going to have some hard shit coming through you. And your dad's over here like, Are you fucking kidding me? I just made his life better. No, he's got to suffer more. Sounds about right, but usually the roles are reversed. Now, let me get over to that teaching. This is actually you can actually find her and most of her stories actually on worldhistory.org, along with other texts and myths that are copied with her. You can find various links. Everything that is related to her, you can find these on there and get on with it. Now, let's see. That's Enlil. Oh, at the same time, for the people who are wondering, like, well, is God the reason why we have all these plagues? And did he? No, that's an On and Enlil type decision to send the plagues, to send all these type of famines and diseases was always On and Enlil. It was never Ea. Ea was always known as the god of wisdom and friend to mankind. He gave us instructions of how to reverse what was happening. This was why many people see Enki, Ea, as the best and the absolute supreme God, because it is him who gave us life, and it is him that has saved us countless times from not only his own family, but our other family, our uncles and our aunts. It has been our uncles and aunts that did not want us even to begin with. Here you go. Here's actually, this actually goes back to Noah. Siasudra, the king, prostrated himself before Utu Samash, the sun god. The king sacrificed oxen and offered innumerable sheep. They have made you swear by heaven and earth. On and Enlil have made you swear by heaven and earth. More and more animals disembarked onto the earth. Siasudra, the king, prostrated himself before On and Enlil. On and Enlil treated Siasudra kindly. They granted him life like a god. They brought down to him eternal life at that time because of the preserving of the animals and the seed of mankind. They settled Siasudra, the king, in an overseas country in the land of Delamun, where the sun rises. Now again, we're going to go over to that myth because it goes over to Ninhursag after this. This is Belati. This is Lady of the Mountain. By the way, at the same time, Ninhursag is also the original Omega symbol with a reed blade is in the middle of it. This was also something you'll find with Mother Isis that you'll find in Egyptian folklore. Here we go. Another one of her early names, Ki, or Kishar, identifies her as Mother Earth. Was also invoked by mothers as she was thought to farm and care for the child in the womb and provide food after he or she was born. Ninhursag was one of the 4 creating deities in Sumerian religious belief, along with Anu, Enlil, and Enki, and is frequently mentioned in most of the most important Mesopotamian myths. And like I said, this going on with Enki and Ninhursag, the Sumerian myth Enki and Ninhursag tells the story of the beginning of the world in the Garden of Paradise, known as Delmun. Now, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh sets out to look for his ancestor Nuntapishtim, who was given/granted eternal life during after the time of the flood. He does find Nuntapishtim. He is at the mouth of what we were talking about again with the hollow earth theory, at the mouth of the entrance in the north. This on itself is actually where some people will get this mixed up because, okay, has the earth already had the magnetic shift happen? Yes. Gilgamesh was a king of Uruk. We know Uruk is and has been on this planet for a while. Now, is it ancient Uruk? No. The flood has already happened. The continental shift has already happened. This is collaborated with the Lakota story of creation that shows that Makkah, Earth, was already broken apart. Now, that on in itself goes and shows, okay, with this, Siya Sudra has already been done. This has already been taken over with. So now we're in the Ice Age type area where this happens. But at the same time, is it the first Ice Age, the second Ice Age, third, fourth, fifth? Which age is this around? But even then, at that time, where? Because if I recall correctly, the only north face where it has the four lands in the north, where it has the land of paradise, the Garden of Eden, would be that north-facing mountain that they always talk about in the North Arctic region. That mountain pass that's constantly has all the clouds passing over it, constantly being seen on the maps, but no one wants to talk about it. They show on old maps that this mountain does exist and has the four rivers coming out. Now, the Smoky God voyage to the inner world also shows that there is a land in there. 75 degrees west, 85 degrees north. You can get to the entrance of it going off of Spitsbergen during April. You'd have to use the warm months to get there. Now, you will not go back out the same way. You will end up going into the south. This is why Antarctica is off limits, because it is the fastest route to the capital or to the Garden of Eden. I know that may not sound like, how is that even possible? If the north is the entrance, how is the south the fastest? It's the fastest route to the temple that is there. It is also the fastest route to also encounter giants and other various tribes, other than exploring and seeing the other lands that are there first. If you wish to look at the moon map and how the extra world goes around that, you'll see that Antarctica is connected to the land directly. However, at the same time, the northern entrance comes out of the mouth or the entrance in the moon area where it has that black circle that you'll see that spreads out. That is the vast ocean that goes in. This is why you cannot fly over it, but you must sail on it. Think of the great universe as a vast ocean. They explain it like that. Apsu was the fresh water above, and Tiamat was the salty water below. You must sail through the vast ocean that is the cosmic ocean. But where is the cosmic ocean? Does it start in the ocean? That is where people talk about and want to talk about curvature, go down to the depths. We say you can't. All right, if we're able to survive space, if we're able to put a fucking shuttle out there that's able to survive the vacuum of space and not collapse, we should be able to do the exact same shit, considering that NASA originally was doing deep sea exploration before they were doing fucking space travel. They should be able to provide and use the same technology to go underneath, considering the fact that scuba suits are about, if I should say, are the exact same as astronaut suits.
In theory. In theory.
Exactly, in theory. But that's what I'm trying to get people to see is I can't say that we haven't been to the moon, because if you go with flat Earth, the moon is within orbit. So we could get to the moon. Anything after that, no, we cannot. But even then, with the whole dimension of saying like, oh, this is a flat Earth, this also goes with the documents that says a flat, non-rotating Earth. This goes in with the flight documents that are there for themselves. They wouldn't mention it if it's not already there. However, it's also a sphere because of the waters above and below. It encloses us within that space, but it's also hollow.
One thing I want to iterate on is that when we talk about the moon, it's all speculation. Even scientists, someone can argue that we've been to the moon, and some would argue not. But the one thing, and the moon is something that I don't believe that we've been to. So I think it's all
a plasma.
I believe
Plasma,
in
man.
this century.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's all speculation on what it is, how to get there. I think that's the issue and the question really at hand. And
Oh yeah.
when people say that we've been there and it's something that we've already studied, we know that it's a space rock with dust on it. It's so that you don't look into it more deeply.
Exactly. There's
Can I
Go
ask
for it.
something though?
Go ahead,
Can
Ray.
you guys hear me? Okay. So this is what I speculate. Okay, this is my. Like I said, I'm a little bit beyond. I think about other things, but I think it's when they come here. Doesn't matter Anunnaki or whatever. They have their own dome. They come here, and when they land here or teleport here, if you want to call it, I think they're just here. They know because they have. If you look at the Anunnaki's arm, they always have the sky map in their arm.
Mhm.
And I think instead of looking, because that's how they recognize where they are, instead they're looking at the plasma in the moon, and they know exactly where they are.
I'm going to touch on that because it's true. All right. So if you remember how they look at wormhole theory, how it's like a bend in space or bend in time, if they would think of that. How come we've never seen anything come out of the wormhole? Like you'll see it pop up, but we never see anything come out. Here's a good theory for you. Just like how you just mentioned portals, if the bend in time is meant for this specific era, you wouldn't see it out there because it's bending it to where they're going back in that exact time. They have to be where they're at for it to be a bend. They have to re-bend time, go back to that specific spot for it to work. So of course they need the map for it to work. They need the locations all throughout this world to see where they're at. And they talk about the portals inside forests all the time, these orbs that float out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they'll see things just come out of nowhere. Some of them being elvish folk, some of them being dwarves, some of them being fairies, Sasquatch, dogmen. It could be a variety of them. But at the same time, if they're on their world and they have a portal that allows them to step between dimensions, wouldn't that be a ripple in time? Since dimensions are and always happening at the exact same time, take multiverse theory. All dimensions are there at the exact same time. However, if you were to step in between, you would have to step through not just your dimension, but their dimension to get to the next area. So you would have to rip through their time area, their time period, in order for that to happen. So you would see something. You would have to see something, a worldly event, a sky event, something in the forest. Something would have to give speculation of what's happening, whether that be something small, something big, or something in between. And you'll see this in the stars, you'll see this in the world. But again, you'll never see something come out of the wormholes. You'll only see something come onto the world like it's already been there. And it's
Let
only
me
for
ask you
that.
this though. Remember that movie, Planet of the Apes?
Yeah.
Remember when he goes like the first whatever, not the old one, the 1960, 1970, it's the one, the modern one, that he goes through the wormhole and then whatever he does his thing, and then when he comes back to the monkey comes back, whatever, he takes the whatever, goes into the orbit and then comes back and then he hits Washington D.C.
It's all monkeys
and
again.
everybody is like an ape, but he's like, in
The
that
only
different
human.
dimension.
Mm-hmm.
You see,
And
they're
that's
trying to tell us something like that. So, what do you think about
exactly.
that?
And that's where that whole karma thing comes in with the elites, where they'll show you everything in movies and TV shows and songs, and they pay their karmic debt so that way when it comes around, they've already paid up. It doesn't affect them. Energy is a real thing, but yet they don't let you know, because if everyone knows about it, then they can reap the benefits as well.
Right. Yep.
It's why people stay in the dark. This is why the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages were so fucking bad, because what did the church do? Let's just hoard all the fucking knowledge, burn everything, and tell people they're shit.
Yeah. Yep. And if you gain any knowledge is gained even today, they distract you away from it and they destroy it, or they keep it to themselves.
Most of them keep it to themselves and then they hide it in the Vatican. There's so
Yep.
much,
I love you too, honey.
only few people know. But, gotta continue. We need to learn our history and then we're gonna continue and not make the same mistakes they did.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's this is why we're here, is to share what we gain. And
Exactly. And this is why I'll attest to my statement. I'm not here to tell anyone that they're wrong. Everything that you believe in is your right. You have the freedom to believe what you believe in, regardless. I am here only to give you the knowledge, whether you want to believe it or not. It is up to you whether you want to put any insight into it later. I'll always be talking about the same thing. But if it hurts you, then you're having a reaction to something that you don't believe in. And why should it affect you? If you don't believe it, you shouldn't affect it. But people still have that. Like, well, you shouldn't be talking about it. Well, it's my right. I can talk about it all I want. And here's a good one. A guy blocked me. His name was Facts Over Feelings. And his thing was trying to prove that everything was ancient Egyptian. But that can't be true, because the ancient Egyptians followed the Sumerian kings list. You're completely taking out a whole century worth of history, knowledge, and origin. Too loud?
no, go ahead.
I'm
Oh, you must be talking here.
sorry. Basically, the Egyptians, they derive from a older civilization that has an already vast amount of knowledge and wealth in heritage and culturalism. And if they wish to take that away because it doesn't fit their narratives, and also take away from the indigenous tribes that are here in America by saying that, oh, Egypt is America, this is where that also stumbles into with correction. Because, yes, while some things may mirror the opposite end of the world, it is not the world that you may think it is. To take away from one to make it your own is not only disrespectful, but downright wrong. This is also why I don't believe in the Catholics when they went around and purged other fucking cultures and heritage because, oh, we're doing it for the glory of God.
Let
Fucking.
me, let me add on to that, your speculation on there. I read about this and I read about it really. It sounds like a document. So what it is basically, I don't, like I said, I don't believe in whatever we see in the sky. It's like a projection, anyways. But it tells us the history of everything. So, and they're connected to other domes, if you want to call it. But according to the map I'm looking at, they came from Mars, so it was extraterrestrial.
I'm
And
so glad you brought that up.
the Atlanteans and other races too. And
Yes.
then it's, I think that's what happened. But then in my vision, what happened to me, I remember it was Exodus. The mountain exploded. That's why Egypt, ancient Egypt, fell. They got scared. Everybody left. So that
It's
was in
cool.
my. So Exodus was there. I was there. I remember Exodus, and it was embedded in me from previous, if you want to call previous life. But it was a mountain. There was a mountain. I don't know where. I think it was in between either Italy or Greece, somewhere there. It erupted, and when it did, it covered all Egypt. Like black people started panicking, so they left. It was the fall of the ancient Egypt. But they're still there. The people are still there. They're all Egyptians, but they don't know they're related to their ancients, but they don't understand that. They don't believe that reincarnation and stuff. So
I'll even add on to that with Mars, and even with it, you can look this up with this podcast from Coast to Coast AM FM. This woman actually had an encounter, which I was talking to you guys about, which is known as the Zillock. They on itself even say that they were brought here. These are the monkey men that I was talking and referencing to with Sun Wukong. Though that they said that they were created by the gods, they said that they were prisoners of war. Both of which is true because it shows that they were created for war by Mother Huber. Now, Mars was known to be an intergalactic station between Earth and, well, if you would, Nibiru. That you would use the asteroid belt as a natural protection from outside sources. And this has come from the Anunnaki stories that they have for themselves. Now, this wayward station, while good and was terraformed for a stage, once war broke out, it became a refuge and everyone went back to Earth. Now, the Atlanteans, they were always on Earth. They were made / created with Ea, or if he would be known in his later works as Poseidon. He and his son, Atlas, son of Poseidon, was given the Atlas Mountains, which at this time you can find with the historical dates, as well as all the land inward towards the Pillars of Hercules. This on itself, yeah, I can get you some milk. I got you. Now, with Atlas, there are two different atlases within this very same region. Some people, especially this morning, tried to disprove me because just like how other cultures and religions do show and prove that various mountain ranges, not all of them, but various, were people at one point. It is also with myth that shows that the Atlas Mountain, which is not the one I'm talking about, but the actual man, was turned into a mountain, but not a singular, but multiple. This, again, with the stars above and below, even shows, because it was supposed to be him, that unnumbered stars expand on him, command to rest for this. And just like how the Lakota talk about that there's supposed to be a spiritual connection, because there's always a connection between the stars above and what happens here on Earth. So what you're saying also goes in and ties in what they're talking about. This is why I tell people constantly, there is a connection to all cultures and all religions. It is up to you, the reader, the person, to decipher and to see what is truly there.
Exactly.
Bingo. You nailed it, man.
Just giving her some milk, didn't want to interrupt. All right. This is watching Mockingjay Part 1 of the Hunger Games.
So how was that for you?
Now, let's see. With going again with Mars, yes, while it being an in-between station, it also wasn't entirely made for us. This was made purely for the Anunnaki. This was a station for prisoners, people that they needed to bring back and forth between stations. This was done in a way so we humans could stay safe. We were delicate, fragile creatures, but we were made even more delicate after they increased our mortality. They brought disease upon us because we were too much like them. This is also why we can still do it today, but it's a lot harder for us. Now, here, I'll pull it up. This is actually during and after this Enlil. That's Anu. Oh yeah, think of Anu as chairman of the board. He literally means heaven. Alright, like that legitimately means what he is. Okay. There you go. Anu, the high myth of Adapa. Going with Genesis chapter 3, 22 through 23. Behold, the man is become as one of us, and to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand and take also the tree of life, and eat and live forever. Therefore the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden, this being the land of Del Moon. Though it is not expressed directly in the myth, Enki's reasoning seems similar to Yahweh's in the Genesis story, where after Adam and Eve are cursed for eating the tree of knowledge of good and evil, Yahweh casts them out before they can also eat of the tree of life. Enki understands that human beings cannot be like the gods because that would be upsetting the natural order. Adapa must remain mortal, this being the very first man, must keep in his place, for creation to function as it should. In another story, the Atrahasis, it is established that humans are created with limited lifespans by the will of the gods. In offering immortality to Adapa, Anu is upsetting the natural order. Now, mind you, this was actually one of the only other times besides Sia Sudra that eternal life was bestowed upon a human, and this being the very first man. But Enki is like, yeah, no, that's not a good idea. No, see, if we're upset and shit already. And then they try and do it, and they're like, okay, you know what? We're going to give them this as a gift because we fucked up. This time, and both times, again, it is Enki, Ea, that god of wisdom, far-sighted Enki, god of magic and fresh water, is there to not only help both the gods and humans, but understands the importance of a balance. Like, okay, we made beings that are not just like us, but could legitimately be us. And that is because we were made from the blood of a god and the clay of the earth. Now, the only thing that separates us from the gods is the flesh. We are clay. We are made of clay, originally. The Nephilim, if you would, was made of both human and gods, made of flesh and flesh, not blood and clay. not the way it was originally intended. This had unforeseen consequences, being the giants that had no quenchable thirst or satiable hunger. And yes, all religion does come from one man and is worldly, but that religion being also extraterrestrial in origin too, James. Like I said, the Bible is a continuation of other cultures, and this is shown not just by us, but by the European museums, the academic and religious institutions when they wanted to find historical collaboration for the stories in the Bible. And this is what we're going over right now. The governments right now proved that aliens do exist, and by doing so proved that gods exist, because it was through the gods that all of this happened, but it was only from them that they descended from heaven. And it even says that from here that when the kingship descended from heaven, that it also goes and bestows upon us. This is why we also follow the Sumerian kings list, and also why the blood type is so crucial for us. If I believe so, it's Rh negative. That is the blood type that they're looking for. That being a non-compatible blood type to the Rh positive people, that will internally kill the child inside the womb. It will attack it. It's to them a foreign object. Even though that it's supposed to create life, the blood is so different that it will attack the infant on the inside and kill it. They have to have stabilizers and all these other medications for them to have this type of child. They have this, in a way, half-breed. A true half-breed. Now, going back to them. Oh, yeah. There you go. The Zergrat, the one that you'll find in Aztec and Mayan mythology, is actually directly related to Anu, the Zergit, which continued in operation from 2000 to 150 BCE. 2000 to 150. And served as astronomical observatory and library. Now, again, all cultures and religions point to the stars and say that we came from the stars. We are born of the gods, we did this, and this is where it's from. Then we have the other side that says we are born of the earth, and we are born this way, that we evolved and we did all that. Both of which and all of which is somewhat true. Now, the simians, if you would, they did evolve. But they aren't human. That's where people get it mixed up. We fought them. We constantly fought them. They were the cave people. All right? Cave people did exist. Those were the cave people. However, the ancient, the people who were the original elites, this is where you'll find it like the, how you'll find it in some movies, how they're like, oh, you're a whole different species from us. You're this, you're that. This is exactly what they're talking about. Now, in the instructions of Surapuk, Enki says that you must take a slave from the mountains and bring them to here, because they will not miss their home. They will not miss their family. So they are talking about people who live in the mountains, who are cave beings, cave dwellers, people who are out there. But yet, these are people who are advanced civilizations who descend from the aliens, the Anunnaki. So both of which are true. Now, again, the only pure human left during the time of the Great Flood, this goes again with Siasudra, the one who's then given eternal life, was the only pure human, quote unquote, left. But what is human? So if we go off with the evolution trait, we're not human.
You want to expand on that? And I believe what you're saying is that we've come from a divine being, whether it be a source, and created. I think that's kind of what you're putting down.
There's two different times that we've been made. The very first one being on Macabre, which the Lakota talk about, and then again, which is what we just went over with, which was Adapa. Adapa being Adam and was the very first man on earth to teach. But this also ended with Siasudra, which was the Great Flood. Then it was our mortal lives were cut. We were given diseases. We were given all these extra things to keep us down because, again, like they said in Genesis 3, we become like them. They can become one of us. God forbid if they eat the fruit of the gods and be able to live forever. This is where, take again with Babylon, with the tower, they became again afraid that we were going to reach the heavens. Because what happens when people who don't know how to control the gifts that are given to them, what happens when they go to an area where that energy is limitless? When you're here in this world, this 3D collective world, you must wash through the chaos. You must be able to shift through it all and be able to find your path. But if the path is never clouded and it's never given you trials and effort and it's just right there, it's limitless, it's effortless, it's instant. That is what they also talk about with the extra dimensions. If you remember, anything past the fifth dimension is an instantaneous reality. So what happens when people who are full of hate, deceit, and malice goes into a place that is pure and full of energy that allows them to interpret and process what they want to manifest instantaneously? They have no way of controlling that power because they have forgotten. And so they must cleanse. What do? They're like, fuck that. We're going to just confuse the hell out of you guys. This is how I not just interpret it, but how I see it, because going again with how they just prove that the Sumerians Anunnaki gods are Yahweh, that would also mean that the angels are also gods, because it was the angels who became demons. Now, so when people say that angels cannot rebel against God, it's not because they don't want to. It's because they're afraid to. They already know what will happen if they rebel against our Father. They've already seen what will happen. Even Utu Samash, who is known to be the most perfect God, to be known as beyond renowned, to be deemed, what's the word I'm looking for? Beyond approach from birth. He was without blame.
Who
Nothing
does this
he did.
I'm asking the audience, who does this sound like? You can write in the chat, because I know this strikes a similarity to a lot of people that have done their own readings.
Mm-hmm. And go ahead and say what you believe, because I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, because what you believe I'm talking about, who I'm talking about right now, you're correct. Who you think I'm talking about is correct. He was blameless in his own ways until sin was found in him. At this point, he is known as the King of Tyr. He is known as the anointed cherub that walked with God. But at this time, he's known as Utu Samash, known as Marduk, the hero, the sun god. But in Egyptian times, he's known as Ra. Now again, if you remember, his mother Isis that gave birth to Ra, and he suckled the breast of goddesses, just as much as Marduk was shown to have done in the myth itself, because he was born in Apsu. Bi was born. In pure Apsu was I born. Marduk, the sun god, the sun god of the gods. Mari Utu, Mari Utu. This on itself is also shown in the Lakota with the sun god being made. I want to make sure I get his right name, because I do not want to disrespect the Lakota people's religion, because I want to make sure I get that right. But Albewi, the moon, is who was made after the sun. Now, we'll go with Marduk. The Amorites, if you remember, the Amorites took over Babylon. Now, there's a very historical figure that I've been talking about, that whose bed is still on display, but who was also taken out of the Bible because it's known as a non-canonical book, because there's no apostolic value. Who do you think I'm talking about?
I'm not sure. And I hope you were asking me.
I am, or Durin, or anyone in the chat. If I want you to also remember, at this time, Moses should be alive.
Aaron?
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
King Og was the Amorite king. Now, at this time as well, the king Tyr was also around Babylon.
And I want to add something, because when you said that, I remember reading about King Og, but it goes into very brief detail. If you have a modern Bible, it mentions him as being defeated by Moses, and that's it.
Yep. It was Yahweh who instructed Moses to kill King Og, but Moses was afraid of him. And Yahweh said, "Be not afraid, but take this and go forth." And he did. And so he struck him on his ankle and killed King Og. Now, mind you, Og's bed is still on display in Bashan. And at the same time, the king of Tyr, also known as the Anointed Cherub, was around Babylon at this time. Now, this is also still time when the Babylonians were still around, but the Egyptians, the new kingdom, was founded already. So again, we also know that Moses was an Egyptian prince. Now, going with that, we then understand that going with that, it's now an Egyptian Babylonian thing, because, okay, fuck the Babylonians. The giants are killing everything in sight. We had Goliath and David. So there's another giant that goes with it. We have King Og, and we also have King Gilgamesh, which was also in the Book of Giants. But this is still known as a non-canonical book. But we have Moses, who made the Torah, which is still a religious practice done to this day, which is known to be a very historical piece of religious literature. So if he existed, then King Og existed. But if giants didn't exist, then who the fuck's bed is on display?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
And then, go ahead, Darren.
Good. Continue, man. But we're running out of time, right?
Yeah, I have about 10 minutes, just to let you know.
Okay. Darren, is there anything you'd like to? I apologize. I've been taking up most of your guys' time on this one.
No, this is what we have you on here for, is just to expand out and share what you know. This is why I host these lives, is to let you kind of... I know you don't have that ability right now, so I'm just kind of giving you my platform.
No, I appreciate that, brother. I really do. This opportunity that you're giving me is more than you know. I've been getting followers after followers ever since that first live, and honestly, it's been skyrocketing. I think I'm close to 600 now, 400 more, and I can do that live. And you guys are going to be my first 3 guests. I'll tell you that, because if it wasn't for you two, I wouldn't be here.
That's what we do. I know Duran's all about helping other people, and I'm the same way, man. Whatever I can extend out that I have, I'm more than willing.
I appreciate that, brother. And
That's
honestly,
what we do, man. That's what we do. We learn every day, anyways.
I'll be sending you guys a picture when I get a chance, but I'm going to be posting it up on here as well. I'm doing a complete outline on Atlas currently, so that way people can get his entire shape. Because from this morning, the man that I know was trying to, in a way, heckle me, and the other woman who was trying to diagnose me, I can't remember the entire the term of the diagnosis she was saying, but it had to do with seeing patterns and faces everywhere. I even dropped her off right there. I was like, don't you try and diagnose me. I know what I have. He's like, I'm not diagnosing you. That's exactly what you're doing right now. You're saying in the mental health world, we call this. That means you are saying, and I quote, I have this. You are diagnosing me. Don't you fucking play with me. Don't you do it. I know what that means. People try and word things so poetically, and they try and get away with stuff, but it's, once you catch on and call them on their shit, they're like, oh no, it's not what it seems like.
Right. Yeah, and that happens in every live that I've been in. It doesn't matter if you go into a flat earth live or if you're talking about origins or if you're talking about other things, somebody's always there to kind of derail.
Exactly. They like to heckle, see if you'll crack underneath pressure. All I can think about is every time I think about that is the Squidward thing. Future! Just sitting there. They think that's what's going to happen to you when you crack. Just, no!
Right.
No!
Not realizing that we've been through this about 1 million times and still on.
Yep. Dude, I'm actually doing sidewalk memorials with my knowledge as well. I'm doing, if you would, sidewalk art and putting out Medusa's face and putting down the passages like I would with YouTube, so that way people can get an idea of what I'm trying to do with the YouTube channel and the videos, to not only give you a complete rundown and description and deciphering of these myths and stories, but to show you these geological locations while also showing the scientific data to back it up. I can't do anything without people saying, well, where's the proof? Where's the proof? You fucking one-eyed legged man. Fucking hell. Come here. Come on, hobble on over here and see it. If you're blind, fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Dude, okay, before we head out, I one of my most ambitious things, which I am trying to get certified for, is to become a certified diver through the state of Oregon. And the reason for this is because then I'd be certified to dive in all waters. Now, my biggest hurdle that I'm going to run into with Snake Island is first, getting an airplane or a boat to go out there. Second, getting a complete 3D mapping of it, including with LiDAR, sonar, echolocation, whatever the fuck I can get to get a complete mapping of it to see if there's any caves that might lead into the actual island. I don't believe there is a temple on the island. I believe there's a temple in it. Now, the reason for this, it goes again with GreekMythology.com, when Perseus flew to the ocean, he caught the Gorgons asleep. Tiptoeing, he came up to Medusa and violently struck off Medusa's head, the only one who was mortal, who he then managed to escape the golden-winged Gorgons. This to me shows and tells me that there is a complete channel that would have to be traversed through to be able to get to the actual location that they were at, the place that they were protecting Medusa as well as living during the time of her banishment. Now, with that, would this area be flooded? Would it be aired out? What would it be? Because at at this point in time, the ocean levels were a lot lower. They haven't risen. So how much lower would it have to be before I find this tunnel system? Now, would it still be there? Would it be collapsed? What would it be? Would I have to clear it out? That's what I'm having to do. But so far, all I have is speculation. And I do know that I need permission to go on the island. Now, and the only reason for that is because for every step that you take, there's about 5 to 10 golden lance head ready to fucking bite your leg and kill your ass. Yeah, that's why you can't go to Snake Island. It's not because it's forbidden. It's because you won't live to tell the tale. There's only been 2 deaths on that island, the first of which being the lighthouse worker that the fucking Brazilian government put on there, and the second of which was a person who wanted to get a golden lancehead viper for the black market, who ended up dying trying to get to his boat. They found him in his boat, completely fucking bitten up head to toe with nothing but snake bites.
That's wild.
Yeah. Now, mind you, these things, and the best way to explain it, imagine chow mein, and that's what it looks like in our island. All snakes everywhere, on the ground, in the trees, on the bushes. It's 106 acres, home to 2,000 to 4,000 golden lancehead pit vipers, and is the only home for that specific snake, which again became isolated towards the end of the Ice Age. And again, this is why I'm trying to go and prove my thesis that shows that Medusa was killed here, because Perseus, again, was born in the late 14th to early 13th century, which again showed that the realm of Atlas was West Morocco. Where the fuck did he come from that showed that he was on the Krasbens Arms and saw polar bears? Where did he come from? There's only one in area that would actually match up, where the Gorgon head dropped clots of gore that quickening on the ground became unnumbered serpents, fitting to cause the curse of vipers and infested land. That is the only place that would match up, even with myth. Geological location, scientific-wise, or anywhere, that would be the only place that would do it. But again, I can only prove it by going over there and seeing if there is a temple dedicated to Athena. That would be the only way that I can prove it. Because even after her banishment to the extreme west, she still dedicated her life to Athena. That's how much she was still dedicated to her goddess. Even after the curse, even after everything, she was still dedicated to the person who gave her, in a way, her own meaning. She led people into battle underneath the guide of Athena. And that was in Berber mythology, including in Egyptian mythology, where she's known as the Cobra goddess.
The what goddess?
Cobra.
Cobra.
Exactly. She was known to be going over into Africa after she was cursed. Her golden hair literally littered the ground and became the serpents and all the deadly reptiles that you'll see in Africa today. But then her hair, which was once golden brown, turned into snakes. But as she fled through the African continent, her location became unknown to any man. But even then, it's like, okay, if she's no longer on this land and she's no longer one to put people at risk, because the people of Berber mythology sees her as a protector, which all Gorgons were known to be protectors, banishments of evil entities. They were never known to be anything evil. That was just people trying to go after Medusa and making her a monster. They were known to be guardians, just like how they were in Hindu, Buddhist, Taoist, and Tibetan mythologies. They were guardians. They were water spirits. They weren't there. They were malicious, but they never intend to hurt humans. They want to help them, but they're beautiful beyond reality. And there are male and female equivalents. They're able to be holistic human, holistic serpent, or lamia.
Yeah, it's remarkable on when you read or you're presented with a movie that presents Medusa. It's always in a form that if you read about it, it doesn't match up.
Yes and no. So the ones, like, if you go with, like, say, Clash of the Titans that shows her in a Cobra form, that's actually true. They have, and she has 3 forms: human, holistic serpent, or half and half, which is a more of a lamia form, upper body of a human, lower body of a snake. But even in the Cobra version, she would still look somewhat human, but she would still have more animalistic features. That's where a lot of people see her more as the monster.
Right.
But she would no longer want to be in her hideous human form, because with old age, with her no longer being divine and having that right to have eternal youth, which all gods had, she would go on to continue to age. But because she had eternal life, she would no longer remain beautiful, hence why she was mortal.
Right.
Gods were able to stay young and beautiful forever because of the fruit that they ate, the fruit of the gods. And if you're cut off from that, even if you're a god, you'll live forever because you are still a god. But you will age as a human does. And this form, she would never want to show that human form again because she's no longer beautiful. And that was something that is profoundly I would say respected, especially with the Naganinis, especially when you're high up in the hierarchy that Medusa was, especially being the daughter of a primordial goddess, the original Mother Cardu. She was a royal blood. And of course, she would be known for her beauty because they were the most beautiful. So when she is cursed to be mortal, of course she's going to lose that dignity of being beautiful. She's going to want to hide herself away. She can't show her face. She can't, because if she does, she'll hurt the people that she loves the most. She can't be anywhere where she was once known. She can't go to the Moroccans. She can't go to the Ethiopians. She can't go anywhere. So she has to go to a place where she is unknown, that only her sisters, the Grai, and the nymphs of the north and various gods know of. And this is found again with that myth, because it's only Athena and Hermes, the messenger of the gods, that help Perseus find the location by sending him to various people that will give him the locations and the tools necessary to kill her. This is Athena's way of mercy after so much retribution and mercy given to her through Medusa. Even though that she did nothing wrong, she still broke her vows of celibacy, which is still wrong in her eyes. And she defiled her temple, whether she wanted to or not. She did 2 things wrong that day. And her sisters, they think, you can think of it as a curse, will be forever late to save her sisters when it's rightfully to do so. So just like how they were late to save her from Poseidon and she was defiled and raped, they will then be too late to save her once more when the time comes when someone is chose to kill her. And of course, if you look at all of the inscriptions, all these people had their heads cut off, but they were still statues. So if there was a prophecy, they were waiting for that day. And what happened? Right. They, again, were too late. And it became a fucking instrument known as the Alios to replicate the wails of the 2 sisters, Sethno and Ariel, the double pipe. So Athena's just like, you know what? I'm just going to make music out of your wails, out of your fucking sadness. I'm going to replicate that and make music out of it.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. We're going to definitely continue on this. I'm down to my mark for ending this. I got to get some other things done.
I gotcha. And
the girls are starting to come in, and remind me of that. So
I gotcha. I'm still looking up all the videos that he sent me, and I believe I'm almost done with one of them. I've just been a little busy on this. It's
Yeah.
quite intriguing, I'll tell you that.
it
And
is, man.
You're
It-
right.
it-
Like,
it sparked my interest in the ages, because this is a lot about what you're talking about. It's not, it's what we're familiar with is our age, and this is something that can be expanded on, even if you like keeping it within the Bible, because
exactly.
Jesus speaks about the ending of this age, and when he spoke about it in his time, which was 2,000 years ago, and up till a certain point where he says he'll return. And so when we talk about origins, it's I like to think of it as other ages that have gone past.
And I do like that too, especially I remember telling you about the era of the red man that the Lakota are looking forward to. And that is, again, can be interpreted as what this man is going over with the next age, the next era, especially with the bronze, the silver, the gold, and platinum ages. This I find very intriguing because if the golden age of man was in the beginning and they were so divinely perfect, this is again goes with what they felt endangered of their own roles and their own hierarchy, because if man was so great and so profound in the same knowledge as the gods, then they provide a threat to our own hierarchy.
Yeah, and it goes along with Marduk or Lucifer. Perfection or blamelessness was found in him until sin was found in him, and then it became the start of the fall in those ages. So it's a very intriguing concept when I first stumbled upon it, and the guy is, like I said, very knowledgeable in what he speaks of as far as keeping it within the Bible, and expanding on that forcept. But I'm gonna go ahead and end it, buddy. If you want, we can schedule again for next week and kind of go on and continue this, because, like I said, this is all intriguing stuff. And for the people that are here, we'll try to do it on Mondays. If there's a change in that, I can post on that.
And again, I appreciate the opportunities you guys are giving me. And
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys listening and putting your input and own knowledge onto this to help expand onto mine. Because without you guys, I can never achieve more and expand my knowledge onto this world. I can't do that without other people.
Right? Absolutely. But all
I hope
right,
you guys have a
Duran,
great night.
Duran, did you want to say something before I go ahead and end it?
All good. Thank you for everything. I appreciate
Of course.
it. Learned a lot.
All right. Well, you guys have a good evening, and we will see you guys again next week. I do hold other lives during the week, but they're kind of sporadic. My schedule is like that. So I try to put a post out there beforehand just to let you guys know, but usually they come around, like I said, pretty sporadic. So they're at the moment kind of thing. So
And
just
you know
keep
me. If
an
I
eye
see
out.
you, I'm gonna come up and say hi.
Yeah, and keep an eye out there, and join us next time. During the week, I'll have a little bit more open discussion where guests can come up, other guests than Belmont and Duran, and we can talk about these things and kind of expand on them on our own time. So,
Oh, that would be lovely. I would really love to have all the commentators come on trying to figure out what they would like to talk about. Honestly, I love their input. There are some commentators that have come on and just have such wonderful questions.
yeah, and then there's some that are negative, but we try to set them aside. But all right, you guys, enjoy your evening, and we'll see you around. All right.
Thank you, brother. You have a great night.
All right. Later, guys.
Bye-bye.